I had this personal belief that when Microsoft started announcing support for containers and for Linux, I'm like, I always put my tinfoil hat on, and I'm like, you know what? I bet the Azure SQL DB team is doing this, because I bet the Azure SQL DB team is tired of supporting 6 gajillion Windows VMs, and that it would be so much easier for them to run databases on Docker containers, run it on Linux. It's easier to automate Linux at scale. I'm probably going to hell just for saying that. But for automating OS's deployment and testing at scale in text files. And so I went to the Microsoft team with this just at a conference publicly, other people around, so there's no NDA or anything. And so I'm talking to them like, is this what drove your push to go to containers and SQL Server support on Linux? And every time I asked someone from Microsoft or Azure that, I got the same look, like, where are you coming from? Like, what is your idea? And they all said, no, that's not what we're doing at all. But I still have this conspiracy belief that one day we're going to hear from Microsoft when they go to do the announcement that we've been running Azure SQL DB on Linux for a year now. It's totally production quality. Because they have this thing where they seem to want to say that you're already running it in production live. This is how you know that it's supported. Like the same way that they say Azure SQL DB is the next version of SQL Server, so they're already testing the new version for you. Well, thanks again, Andrew. Excellent job. Nice job, sir.
No worries. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. So we have like a 45-minute break here, and then when we come back, we will be Richie showing tinfoil head. When we come back, who's next? Is it Sunil that's next? I should probably.
It's me.
It's Rob. You're next.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Green is good, red is bad. Yes, that's right. Green is good, red is bad. So we were talking in the last break about how you come up with presentations and titles. How did you come up with that title?
It literally jumped out on me when I was talking about the results of the PESTA test to a service desk person.
Mm-hmm.
And there were the words that I said. So, you run the script, and then you'll be able to see if everything's okay for this particular system, and green is good, red is bad, and then later on it sort of went, ping, that'll be a good name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I've just seen Aaron Bertrand's comment in Slack there, taking the tone down very slowly.
Yeah.
Dad jokes. Yeah. He's good for dad jokes.
Yeah. Canadians and their sense of humor, I tell you. Very nice, very nice. Yeah, so I just closed the voting on GroupBy for September, so the top 10 are out there. If you go to groupby.org, you can see who's going to be out there. We are going to have, actually I should share the browser. Well, but no, if I share my browser, you're going to see who I voted for. All right, so I'll just walk through the list. So we have, I'll be in doing why defragmenting your indexes isn't helping, doing the clickbait talk there. Bob Ward is coming back, Microsoft's Bob Ward. Excellent presenter. Man, he's a ton of fun. Doing Inside SQL Server in-memory OLTP, which is always interesting to me because I don't know a whole lot of shops that are using that, but the internals of how it works should be very interesting. Anytime Bob Ward wants to talk about internals, I'm interested. Pedro Lopes, another Microsoftie, is back with enhancements that will make your SQL Server database engine roar, the 2016 Service Pack 1 edition. I have had the pleasure of seeing that talk live at SQL Day in Poland, and he's a great presenter, super fast. He's one of those where you don't even want to bother asking questions because he's going to go full tilt for the entire length of time that you have him allotted, and you're going to be scribbling notes as quickly as possible. Continuing in our trend of always having lots of people from Europe, Steph Locke is in. Steph Locke is doing Statistics 101. Then next we have Anthony Nocentino doing networking internals for the SQL Server professional. Anthony had a couple of sessions that were doing fairly well in the top 10. The other one was Linux OS fundamentals for the SQL Server admin, but his networking internals one got higher up. Next we have Tracy Baggiano, who I don't know how I was not subscribed to her blog before now. I'm like going back, and now she's got a ton of good blog posts. Her session is monitoring availability groups, And I get this question constantly from people. How do you monitor always-on availability groups? So I know that one's going to be huge. Steph Locke had 2 in the top 10, maybe 3 even in the top 10. And so the next one down on there is from 0 to 1 billion transactions a month on a shoestring budget. Unfortunately, because in each group buy, only one session gets picked from a presenter, so that one didn't make the cut, even though it was in the top 10. Then we have Why T-SQL Was the Language of the Year by Terry McCann. There's a trick to that. It wasn't the language of the year. This year was the language of the year a few years ago, back when Microsoft was investing all kinds of stuff in T-SQL. Also, we have 2 sessions on in-memory OLTP. Ned Otter is doing how to evaluate if 2016 is right for OLTP, in-memory OLTP is right for your workload. Simon Whiteley, just by the name, he has to be British.
He's another British man.
Is he? Yeah, okay. You guys all know. There's those names that you can just he's a Brit. Is doing modern data warehousing, the new approach to Azure BI. And then John Martin was the very last one in the top 10 to make the cut. Another Brit there.
Well, no, he's Scottish.
Oh, I got to go back to that XKCD diagram of what's British and what's the UK.
The standard joke
Scotland is in Britain, Rob.
Yeah, the standard joke is about Andy Murray, the tennis player. When he's doing really well, he's British. When he's doing very badly, he's Scottish.
I saw that on Top Gear too. Yeah.
John is a good friend of mine, so I will take the mick out of him.
Man, he's doing, and I will have to say what his session title is before I then go on about the next story about him. So John, he's doing, let me go back and find it, working with data masking, dynamic data masking, and row-level security. So have you heard about his wedding and the honeymoon?
Yes.
You should tell it, because it'll sound better coming from you than me.
Back to the English accent again. So John and Steph Middleton, another SQL family community member, are getting married in about 7 weeks' time in Christchurch, and their honeymoon is a motorcycle trip around India and I think into Nepal as well. But the photos of it look amazing.
That's awesome, but they are mad driving around India on motorcycles.
Agreed. I think that's half the fun.
Yeah, definitely.
It's an organized tour, so there's like the tour company, their luggage from place to place. They have backup bikes and vans and all that, mechanics. So it's not as terrifying as it sounds, but
still terrifying.
Yeah.
It's an adventure, and definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you Google for like motorcycle tours in India, there's a bunch of them that it even includes the bikes, just beautiful bikes. Pretty slick.
So John and Steph run the local SQL user group here in Southampton.
Yeah.
So that's where I did my first talk.
No kidding.
Yeah. So yeah, they're pretty cool.
So what was the first session you ever did? What was the first community talk you ever gave?
It was kind of, the first half was, it was called Source Control for the Reluctant DBA. And it was, the first half was Git fundamentals, and then the second half was Ready Roll basics as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, that's so evergreen because, man, one of these days we should take a poll about how many DBAs put their stuff in source control, and it can't be 5%. It's got to be more than 5%. It's just coming like a freight train, really slow. And Git is just so terrifying when you first go into it. Even with the GUI, it's rough.
I was at the PowerShell conference, Europe, speaking with Andre Kaman, and he started his thing by saying, "I did a pull request." To you guys, that might seem completely normal, but for me, as a DBA, I did a pull request because it's a complete mystery to a lot of DBAs.
Oh yeah. When we started the company, Jeremiah was 100% into Git, and then he converted Kendra into Git, and I was like the last holdout. I'm like, I miss my Visual Source Safe. Yes, it corrupted files continuously, but it was easy to use. Same thing with CVS. I'm like, CVS is easy. I liked it. Rob, what was the first session you ever gave? Do you remember?
The first session was an introduction to PowerShell at the Exeter user group, and it was absolutely terrifying, but not as terrifying as the second session I did, which was at Steph Locke's user group in Cardiff, where I had a little tablet, sort of 2-in-1 convertible, and the HDMI output wasn't strong enough to power the big boardroom presentation. Well, I'm a good DBA, so I had everything backed up in the cloud, and I was ready to go. I was using Azure virtual machines. So Stuart Moore lent me his Mac. It'd probably been 4 years that since I'd used a Mac. So I was presenting on the Mac with the Mac keyboard with the keys in the wrong place, trying to do my session in Azure and a PowerPoint online. So the sweat was dripping.
We had one of our QA guys present a big session for the Ministry of Testing over here. I think it was last Tuesday, and he started at 7 o'clock. And we have like a 9-screen setup in our office. And he got to his second slide, and then one by one, each one of the screens turned themselves off. And nobody had checked, but the screens were actually on a timer. So at 5:11 every day, they turn themselves off.
Oh, excellent. I had one SQL Saturday we went to, the air conditioning was set to go off in the building at a certain time, and just, the whole rest of the day, I don't know, it was like 11 a.m., and just immediately the temperature just starts going up. That was brutal. Yeah, Andrew, you remember the first presentation you ever gave?
Yeah, it was at the user group in Dublin. I did a lightning talk on introduction to partitioning.
Those are hard.
No. You need to expand on the rest of that. He didn't just do a lightning talk on an introduction to partitioning. What else did you do? In 5 minutes.
Oh, the demos.
You did. Oh man. Oh. Yeah.
I saw the session when Andrew did it in Exeter at our SQL Saturday, and it literally stopped people in their tracks that he could manage to do slides and a demo setting up partitioning inside 5 minutes. It was a sight to see.
That's harder than a 1-hour session, because in a 1-hour session, something goes wrong, you have plenty of wiggle room to change things. In a 10-minute session, you have no wiggle room at all.
5
minutes total?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Oh.
It was an interesting experience. So, like, I'm one of those people who never thought I'd do any sort of presenting. So I thought starting off with a 5-minute session would be my way into it. And everyone was I didn't even realize, because people were saying to me, "You're doing what?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is truly harder to come up with, what am I going to get, what bridge am I going to get across in the span of 5 minutes? You have even just to win the audience over. Usually it takes 60 seconds at least to get even just everyone to stop talking, and it's brutal. And I've seen people, there's a style of speaking called pachachka, I think is how you pronounce it, but it's, I want to say a slide every 10 seconds. And you have 6 minutes, and you have no control over the clicker. The slides are advancing. Yeah, you don't get a remote or anything like that. So if you even have a joke, that's 10 seconds of dead air. People are laughing, and you're screwed, and you may never. Oh.
It's one of those things that if you lose one, it's going to run away from you. So trying to get it back would be.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's unreal, the thought of not having a clicker. And it's the same if the audience is dead and you're expecting something, laughter, you're screwed too, because if you built in that dead time and the audience doesn't use it, yeah, it's impressive.
So what about your first presentation?
I don't remember it, and I need to go back and look and see. Like every now and then I go back in my old slide folders. I know a long time ago I did something about the cloud. Was one of the first online sessions that I ever gave, and And I remember I was really proud of the session. It was awesome. And I had given it several times in different places. And then I ended up in Germany for Pass Camp when I was working for Quest. And I'm like, I'll do this session. Everybody seems to love this session in America. And I'm talking about the cloud in Germany. And then people are just not responding. There's just like zero audience take-up whatsoever. And like 10 minutes in, I'm like, okay, let me stop for a second here. I've lost every one of you. What's going on? You know, why are you not interested in the cloud? And somebody kindly spoke up and said, well, we can't put our data out of the country, and so there's no Amazon presence here right now. And there was no Azure, back then that was in Germany. So really, there's no reason for us to use any of this. I'm like, oh, great. Well, what am I going to do for the rest of this hour? Because, well, you want me to talk about something else? Because I could talk about something else, but yeah. Andy says in Slack, why do people keep talking about SQL Saturday Boston failed? I think it was actually yours that I was referring to, Andy, when the air conditioning failed. Because the sun started streaming in the afternoon. It was like the sunset in the glass side of the building. Kevin says, do the partitioning thing for speaker idle. Well, Andrew, have you ever spoken at Pass before?
No, I haven't. I did my abstract for this session to SQL to Pass Summit, but to go all the way over there for a lightning talk, I went there in 2015, and to get there from Dublin is a bit of a mission. I ended up in Chicago O'Hare Airport for 13 hours.
Oh.
By about hour 8, I think I went slightly mad. So I'm not. If I get a full session, I'll definitely go. I'm not too sure about going over there for lightning talks.
It only makes sense if you're going to be over there as an attendee, then you throw your name in the hat for speaker idle, because it's kind of like a free. But otherwise, it's a tough. So so if you don't get a talk, you won't be going this year. It sounds like. Yeah,
I think so. I'm not convinced I'll get a talk either because of the amount of people who apply. But if I do, I'll go. If not, we'll see.
I do think this is the best chance ever for people to get in, between all the topics that are out and new that no one has experience on, the new requirements for you have to have spoken 3 times, the Halloween, which it turns out is a big deal for American parents. So there was way less sessions submitted than normal. I think half as many as there were last year. So your odds are good. What about you, James? Did you submit for Summit this year?
No, not this year. Similar to Andrew, it's obviously quite a commitment to go over there. I've already got quite a few non-SQL trips booked for this year. So there's some budgetary constraints there as well. But it's definitely on my radar. I think next year, I'm going to think seriously about putting something forward.
Well, and with both of what you guys do, I mean, that there's near zero expertise in it out there, that you should be, have a huge head start on. People always want cutting-edge topics, and there's just not a lot of people doing cutting-edge stuff. So you guys already have a huge jump over the rest of us who try to speak about performance tuning. There's 500 people who submit how to tune a query. That one's much tougher. Why, my goodness, Aaron says, I had a projector explode mid-session at the old location in Cambridge. There have been so many failures. Where was I? Vegas. Oh, Vegas for Intersection. And 5 minutes tops into my session on disaster recovery, the fire alarm went off. And so big whooping noises, everyone's getting evacuated, and so I'm like, damn it. Because there goes my session, so I start pulling my stuff. Some attendees are getting up, and I'm pulling my cables out, and I throw the laptop into the bag. And Aaron said he was speaking opposite me at the same time. And like 90 seconds after the fire alarm goes off, it stops, and it changes sound. And it's kind of weird, and I'm like, is this a cancellation noise, or is this... And people are just kind of standing around looking, not sure exactly what they're supposed to do. And I'm like, well, screw it. And so I just plugged everything back in my laptop, and I'm like, all right, if you guys want to leave, you can. Otherwise, I'll just be in here burning to death with those of you who stuck around. That was bizarre. And Kim Tripp came frantically running in afterwards, like, you can have 5 extra minutes to make up for that. And I'm like, oh, no, that's okay. I'll make it work.
Hey guys, I'm going to have to drop off, I'm afraid. But thank you very much, Brent, for hosting this. And Rob, good luck with your session. And I will see you in SQL Saturday Dublin next Saturday.
Nice.
Thank you, buddy. Looking forward to it. Well done. That was a great session.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.
SQL Saturday Dublin sounds like it's one of those just awesome places. So many. What, Bert? You changed your background.
Yeah, I finally had some time to go through those Slack comments there that you guys were making, so I figured I'd troll you a little bit.
If there was a way to put fire in the background, that would have been good as well.
Yeah.
Nice. SQL Saturday Dublin sounds amazing. I always hear so many speakers who either want to get over there or come back in, and they're very happy with the results. Rob, is this your first time going over there, or you been there before?
No, I was there last year as well. Fantastic people, really good event. And this year we're in Trinity College. So there was some quote about it being like Hogwarts, which I thought I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, you guys get all the cool history over there. I mean, you say Trinity College over here, it could have been 10 years old, but I get the feeling over there it's probably a little older than that.
Yes, I think so.
Oh, jeez. Aaron says this will be his 3rd Dublin. Yeah, I should go looking. Oh, you know what? I should actually show SQLSaturday.com. Let me fire open the browser. Let me get rid of my GroupBy tab so you guys don't see my voting. Show Chrome. So let's go to SQLSaturday.com. So SQLSaturday.com is totally free community events. They're happening every Saturday all over the world. You can go down and there's upcoming events across all the continents. It goes a little goofy user interface here. You hit show more and then it's going to pop out the rest of them. If you sign in, if you create an account with Pass, then you can sign up for events that happen near you. You can sign up to volunteer for an event. They're 100% volunteer driven. It's all volunteer community speakers. Even if you don't want to speak, even if you don't want to get up on stage, I would encourage you to volunteer because they have all these volunteer tasks, setting up registration, packing the bags, and you get to meet all of the speakers. You get to talk to MVPs, MCMs, Microsoft people, and you really quickly develop a relationship. You get to hang out at the speaker dinner at most of these, so it's a really fun way to meet a lot of cool people in the community. And the speakers, I mean, like everybody who you see here in the intermissions, the people who are speakers are here because they want to help you. They're here because they want to give back to the community. They're friendly. Very few of us are assholes. Very few. Vast majority of them are nice people. Other than even the ones who look scary, like Rob. I mean, they're still actually, as it turns out, nice guys. What other community resources should we point these people to? What else? DBAtools.io. I'd be bad if I didn't mention that during any given event. Yeah, Rob, you were going to say something?
No, DBA Tools is going to feature in the next presentation as well. So fantastic nice. Community.
Really strong, lively Slack room. If you go to their GitHub repository, so this, I should say, this is that's the Slack one. I click on the wrong icon. It's an open source PowerShell toolkit for production DBAs. And so there's 59 contributors. This is by far the largest community project out in the SQL Server community. They accept code from people like you and me, only different, smarter usually. So GitHub is kind of scary to get into, but once you're into it, it's awesome. It's fantastic.
I will say this. I am one of the founder members. I had the 3rd command put in for this. My role is evangelist now, so
really?
You will have the friendliest code reviews you have ever had. Yes, that looks really good, but here we do it like this, or we used to do it like that, but actually it's much quicker if you do it this way. Code reviews are like scary, but actually they're really good. And we don't just want people who are good at PowerShell. this project needs documentation. It has testers. We do unit testing with Pesta. We do integration testing with Pesta and Apvea, and so we need people with all of those skills to come in. The 59 contributors are bound by another group of 40 or 50 extra people who just give us a more rounded project. It really is an excellent project, and if you don't have the skills in this area, we definitely would make use of your skills in another area. And sometimes people don't realise. We had a guy who said, I really want to do something, but I can't write the PowerShell, and I'm not really great at SQL like you guys, and documentation, meh. What can I do? We sort of chatted with him and found out actually he's a brilliant QA guy. And he was just excellent at setting up our whole QA process and getting it organised and sorting all that out. So sometimes we'll find skills that you don't quite know you have as well.
Well, and the world always needs more testers. I mean, I always want someone else to look at my code before I go live. Just follow the same instructions repeated on your machine, and if it blows up, I'd much rather have you find it than 1,000 people find it at once.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That one's good. Someone in Slack, I believe, said DBA reports. Now I got to go look at that because let's see here.
There's another one of those.
Yeah, so DBA reports was actually my baby that I started.
What? Really?
Yes.
What's this? All right, so now tell us about it.
So DBA reports basically is a
oh man, come on! You've had years to polish this.
My words have literally just gone out of my head. I wasn't expecting this. This is like the time I walked into Andre Command's session at SQL Bits, and he was showing my commands, and then called me forward to talk about them, and I was like,
not ready for this.
So what we do is we grab a list of servers in a database table, and then we use PowerShell to go and gather information about those and bring them back into a centralized repository, and have SSRS and Power BI reports to then display them to whoever you need to display them, including Cortana integration, which I am most pleased about. Being able to hold my phone and say, show me SQL, show which clients are based in this particular data center.
Wow. So what is your day job then? What do you do?
I'm a freelance guy now.
Okay.
I do PowerShell, I do training with a SQL DBA base. So SQL DBA is a history, but PowerShell automation going forward. And this all came about from my last permanent job when I walked in as a DBA manager. Sat down with the guys and said, right, can you tell me how many instances you've got? And they went, 200, 300. So, oh, okay. How many databases have we got? 3,000, 4,000. And then this cold feeling went down into my stomach, and I was like, how do you know they're all backed up? So from that, I very quickly needed to gather all of that information, and that's what became DBA reports. Was just a method of saying, right, here are our instances, right, get me all the information, and then on the back wall there'd be Power BI reports that would scroll through, showing how many agent jobs have failed, or like the history for 30 days. So you could say to the IT manager, look, when the SAN failed, that's the issue it caused, and the reason we didn't do any work the next day is because we were fixing all of that. So we took that, and it was one of those things that you put together on the fly and make it work, because obviously I wanted to know the information quickly. And when Chrissy and I got together and started talking about the SQL Collaborative GitHub, she said, well, we'll have DBAtools and DBA reports. So we got DBAtools up and running and going, and then we spent some time polishing DBA reports and making it a much better installation experience, and bringing a lot of work through with it. And I've just looked at Slack. Thank you, Jason. The problem was I spend so much time doing presentations and doing a lot of DBA tools work that I didn't really give it enough love. So I've actually handed on the baton, and Jason Squires is now the main lead for that, and has now started bringing it forward and bringing new things in. So,
what made you get started doing it as open source? I'm going to build this.
Everything I do, I am that isn't protected by some company IP. I'm happy to share, because there's no point just me knowing how to do it and then nobody else being able to. So take what I use and make something, and then literally the only thing I ask is come back and tell me what you did. Because I met some guys at the PowerShell conference in Hanover last year, and they came up and they were like, "Oh, can we buy you a beer?" Oh, okay. Why? What have you done? And they'd taken DBAreports and put it against their entire data center, got it gathering all the Windows information as well as some of the SQL information they needed, and then they were doing all sorts of clever stuff into machine learning and they've just taken it a whole 5 blocks further down than I'd ever even considered. And that's the thing I love doing is take this thing that we've done and then let your imagination run wild and go and do stuff.
Now, and you're a
Give away your best ideas.
I was going to say, so yeah, James, elaborate on that. You held up one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah, I just picked this up off your blog. It's like one of the first books I've read, kind of professional, how to act in these environments. But yeah, one of the core things he says is give away your best ideas, which is, I guess that matches quite closely to what you're doing.
So. And you learn more. I needed to do what I needed to do for my instance, so I had to put in a lot of things about fixed ports, because we had a lot of fixed ports, and then you give it out to other people and they're like, oh, this doesn't work, we need it to work with dynamic ports. Okay. Yeah, right, so now we have to think about how we need to do that, and many minds are always better than one, because we've all got different experiences in the different places that we've worked, or the different methods that we've learned stuff. So,
whether it's blogging or presenting or building community code, I find like anytime I know from the beginning that I'm going to be showing it to people later, or heaven forbid giving it to them, the quality of what I have to build in just like goes to a ridiculous other level, where I'm like, okay, so this has to work on case sensitive servers, this has to work in European times, how can I just build in good code from the beginning?
Time zones, my word. Until you have other people coming in talking about time zones or different languages and collations, you don't realize quite how complex it is to deal with that. I always say that the best code that I write is the code you see on my blog.
Yes.
Second best code I write is the code you see in my demonstrations, because sometimes I like to type in my demonstrations. Yeah. And third best code is the code I do at work, which
it's true.
Doesn't feel right, but it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. It's with the time zone thing. I laughed so hard. I saw a quote the other day. I was massively in favor of space travel until I realized what it would do to time zones in my code. Oh, that's true. That's gonna suck. Yeah. Mars time, different times on Mars, different times on the moon. Oh, God. Ugly. Yeah, so I think, and it's all of us. Bert, you're a consultant as well, or are you a full-time employee?
Nope, I'm a full-time employee. I'm a BI developer.
Yes. How, if you wanted to take some of your code and do it as open source when you go build stuff, how receptive has the company been, or?
Anything I do there stays there, and I'm okay with that. I think that's okay. I think that's the way most big companies do it. But anything I do outside of it, right? I try to open source for all the same reasons you guys have been talking about. I mean, anytime that I have shared code, I'll get feedback from someone who comes up with some use case or scenario that I would have never in a million years thought of, that I can then, implement a fix for add functionality to. So it's a great idea.
It's so weird that, like, you put code out in the public and you write a blog post, whatever, and you just assume that people are maybe reading it, like there's 3 or 4 people a day or whatever, that someone's reading it, and you see hit counters go, but it doesn't mean anything until they come up to you at a conference, and then all of a sudden they're like, this made a real difference. You're like, oh my God, yes, yes.
Yeah.
But if people watching this, if someone's code makes your life easier, like if you use Rob's stuff, you should tell them. Say hi to them at a conference, walk up, say, hey, here's where I use your stuff. This is where it saved me. Or here's where it sucks, and I need you to improve it. Yeah, totally. That's so much of it, and it's been neat to see the SQL Server community embrace open source. I mean, whether it's Docker, it's stuff like DBAtools, DBAreports, and Linux for that matter. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting. Fun times.
Exciting times coming, I think.
Yeah, nuts. How are you, Rob, especially with the automation thing? Are you guys doing anything with SQL Server on Linux or planning to?
Literally, that's what I've been doing with my last contract, which runs out in a couple of days, is doing a proof of concept on SQL on Linux for a client.
No kidding. What was driving it?
IT director preference, I would say.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I mean, the biggest thing missing right now is Active Directory integration, but it's coming. But yeah, it's very good. HADR is interesting. I think that still needs some tweaking. But
I saw the process of setting that up. I read through it and just thought, that looks tricky.
Yep. And it does interesting things as well. So you do a demonstration. You say, okay, here's our availability group. We've got our availability group. Can you fail it over? Certainly. How would you like me to fail it over? Or just turn off the primary server. Okay. Turn off the primary server.
Yeah.
Access goes, fails. We can query the database. Everything's working brilliantly. The thing is, if you turn the primary server back on again, Pacemaker goes, oh, you're the primary, hang on, and goes and grabs everything and brings it back over to the original primary. And I don't necessarily want you to do that, actually. It might be better if you just kind of stayed where you were and let me decide.
Is that configurable at all, or not yet, or?
Not yet. It's the way that Pacemaker is working with that clustering, because in Windows, your cluster and your SQL Server are meshed in together like this, whereas on Linux they're completely separate. So the SQL is aware of what's going on, but the cluster is not aware of what's happening with SQL.
Wow. So I guess so. Thinking back through it, so database mirroring probably works the same way, but clustering is different. AGs are probably a little different.
Very different. Well, yeah, different.
Different. James, have you been using those two as well, or are you just watching sessions on how to do them, or?
Yeah, I've played around with SQL and Linux a bit, combined with some of the container stuff, because as I was saying, containers work so much better on Linux. So I think it's really, it's quite incredible how well it works, to be fair. I've been really surprised at the amount of functionality and the performance, which is obviously driven by the kind of emulation layer, so it is kind of the Windows binaries underneath.
If you'd like your brain to melt, James, watch Slavarox talk about where they're going with Postgres and MySQL, and the way they're hooking that into SQL Server.
Really?
I
saw everyone freaking out about that on Twitter, but I haven't actually. Can you actually watch that session?
I have no idea. He did a session at Tuga IT, which interestingly I found was the best way of curing my nerves before a presentation, was to get so hooked into this just incredible mind-melting things that he's doing, and then showing with the debugger and everything, that I suddenly went, oh crikey, I'm talking in 5 minutes.
I would. We'll have to go and look. So Slava. Just to put it in Slack in case people go Google, if you can find that presentation, type it into or link it into Slack. Sometimes that stuff's out open at SQL Saturdays or whatever.com, and we can go find out. Genius guy, really smart guy.
Yeah,
super smart. Has hardly ever blogs. He had a legendary set of blog posts like 10 years ago about clock hands, about how SQL Server cleared out unused memory pages, and it's a set of DMVs that all of us kind of look at and go, I don't really understand what's going on there, but that sure looks interesting. He's on another level. He was at Summit last year or 2 years ago, and Microsoft brought him out like a lion from a cage. They just put him in the middle of the Microsoft booth area. He had headphones on, and he was coding on a Mac. Just every now and then, Microsoft would bring someone by and go, "This is Slava Oaks," and you could tell by their reactions whether or not they were really a SQL Server person. Because if they were like, yeah, whatever. But then if they knew Slava Oaks, oh my God, clock hands, then you're like, okay, yeah, you're hardcore. Welcome, Drew Furgiuele. Now that I know his name, now that I'm able to pronounce his name, I do it at every opportunity. How are you doing today, Drew Furgiuele?
Oh, it's Friday. It's Friday, and I'm glad you can say my name, Brent. You're like one of 4 people that can say it correctly.
We introduced him at the PowerShell virtual chapter as it's Drew. You'll know him as Pitferg on Twitter.
True story.
Yes, I believe it. That's pretty cool. What are you up to today, Drew?
Oh, I've been I've been paying attention for most of the presentations. I just got out of a meeting a little bit ago. Otherwise, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. It's pretty quiet Friday. I was actually working on balloon stuff earlier today.
And you should clarify on that for folks who don't know what the High Altitude SQL Server project is.
Yeah. So, High Altitude SQL Server project. We're basically taking a weather balloon and we are attaching SQL Server to it, and we have sensors that are going to log data real time to SQL Server as it flies into the atmosphere, and hopefully it comes down safely and doesn't kill anybody or hurt anything, and then we'll pick it up and look at the data and visualize it. So it's going to be pretty neat. I got a ton of crap on my desk here too. I could show some of it off if you want.
I saw on Twitter you 1,200 gram weather balloon. So the 1,200 grams, what does that refer to? The weight of the balloon, or is it?
So I said today that I was clad in latex, and I was kind of kidding, but not. So
I just assumed it was like any other day.
Yeah, it's weird, right? So this is 1,200 grams of weather balloon. This is just a crap ton of latex. So it's 12. This whole thing right here, uninflated, is 1,200 grams. So this thing will blow up to a certain diameter depending on how much helium we put in it, and that's how big the balloon is going to be. So this is the actual balloon. Uninflated.
How? So where do you buy something like that?
Well, this is from a company called High Altitude Science. They basically sell. I don't know if you guys can see that. This company. Oh, sorry. This company. They sell weather balloons. There's a couple other places online you can get them. There's all different sizes. This is kind of the middle of the road. Kind of like, hey, it's your first time playing with weather balloons. Try this. But you can get bigger ones. You can get zero pressure balloons that can like fly around the Earth. I mean, it gets pretty crazy pretty quick.
What? So where are you going to launch it from?
Good question. We can't like launch just anywhere. Like my nightmare scenario, right, is we launch this thing and it lands in the middle of I-270 in Columbus and somebody runs it over and causes an accident. So right now we're thinking we're going to launch somewhere in kind of east central Indiana where it's kind of flat, and depending the physics behind it's pretty interesting. So the more helium we put in it, it doesn't go as high. So if we use less helium, it goes higher and the flight lasts longer because it takes longer to get up there, versus if we use a lot of helium, it doesn't go quite as high, bursts, and then comes down faster. So we're still playing with the numbers, and it's one of those things where we don't really know until we actually buy the parachute, and we can't buy the parachute until we're finished with final construction. So we're still building the capsule right now, and when we have the capsule built, then we'll take a final weight measurement, which will determine how big of a parachute we get, which will then determine how far it travels.
The parachute, how does it fire? Does it like fire on a deceleration trigger?
Yeah, so literally free fall. So when this thing's all tied together in a train, so this extra glove, if this is the balloon, it's going to burst, and then tied to the balloon is the parachute, and then below that the payload. So the balloon's going to burst, and then it's going to start to free fall, and then if everything goes correctly, the parachute comes out and then free falls.
How cool.
Yeah.
There's so many interesting questions. Daniel Hutmacher says, do you need permission from air traffic control, the military, etc.?
So it's interesting. Yes, there isn't any laws that say you need to ask for permission. However, as long as your payload isn't like ridiculous, typically the cutoff's like 6 pounds. And what you need to do then is you basically need to call anywhere between 6 and 24 hours in advance and say, look, we're launching this balloon. Here's where we're launching from. Our estimated flight time is this. You contact air traffic control, and then you tell people not to fly through things. And that's very relevant because I was on Reddit today because I've been looking at high altitude balloon subreddits, and I wanted to share something in Slack real quick if I could. This I found was very cool. Maybe I might already have it up. Hold on a second here.
You want to share your desktop?
No, I'll just drop it in. Well, I mean, I guess I could do that. Let me see if I can get it real quick here.
Okay.
There was, where was it? Let me see if it's in my YouTube history.
For those of you who are just joining now, too, you can go to SQLslack.com, and then you can have this stuff on your screen while we're talking as well, like during Rob's actual session here in a few minutes. You'll be able to follow along. And if you ask questions in here, then we see them and ask them to the presenters, too.
Yeah, so I'm going to drop this link into GroupBy real quick, and you guys can watch it on your own. So there's another group of guys that launch high-altitude balloons quite a bit, and they've been a good resource to talk to about stuff like this. And these guys launched a balloon where they had raw audio, and they had a flyby of an Airbus 319 500 feet above their balloon in flight, which isn't supposed to happen if everything goes the way it's supposed to. So you guys can watch that and watch with sound for sure. So these guys had a GoPro and they had live audio, which ours isn't going to have audio, but it basically it overflies the balloon by about 500 feet. And air traffic control is supposed to steer things away from this. And I think it was one of those things where the pilots probably saw it and they were just like, gun it, like get over it. So it was like, yeah. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen to us because I feel like there's questions that'll be asked if that happens, but.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, I just glanced at that and I was like, oh, that's.
Yeah, and to keep our costs down, we're not using like GoPros. I don't want to spend $400 a camera, so we have like these GoPro knockoffs that we're using. They got these at Micro Center pretty cheap. They're pretty good. They're relatively light, and we'll be using these. Our goal is to have two. We want one that looks out so we can kind of see the curvature of the Earth, and we want one that's facing straight down so we can do like a time lapse of it going up and then coming back down. So that's our goal.
Email me your snail. I don't know if I still have your snail mail address. I literally have 4 GoPros sitting in my closet, and I'll loan you a couple of them if you want. And even if they fall to the earth and die, who cares? Because I used to use them for. Yeah. I used to use them for filming training videos. I have literally no use for them now. So.
Okay. Yeah, and send me a sticker for the balloon because you just became a sponsor.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah. I have a disturbing amount of electronics in the closet. It's just not even funny.
Do you want to see some? Do you want to see some disturbing electronics before the next session?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so just real quick, I'm gonna kind of take my camera here and I'm gonna show off some of the things that we've got. So this over here. Oh, this is gonna be interesting. So this over here is the device. This little guy right here is what's running SQL Server. There we go.
Oh, what?
Yeah, this is our SQL Server. So this is an Intel Jewel board. It's a 64-bit processor with 4 gigs of RAM, and some internal storage. And then this right here is kind of our this is like the dev station, right? So this is it's SQL Server on Linux, and it's using the Johnny 5 robotics library. So let me log in real quick here, if I can remember the password. So yeah, and then like I can show you real quick. So it's all what it does is it basically turns other Arduino boards into devices that you can interface with. So this is all the rat's nest of wiring for our various sensors. So this Arduino basically talks to we have a Node, and it's a Node.js library that talks to Arduino. And then this is what pulls all the sensors and then pulls everything back and writes to SQL Server. So this is what's going to be running in real time as it's up there.
Golly.
So pretty cool, right? So we have an internal temperature sensor here, so that we're going to have this inside so we can monitor what goes on and make sure that none of this stuff's freezing. And then we've got, this is an accelerometer. And then further outside here, this sensor is going to be on the outside of the balloon. This is a barometric pressure sensor that'll help us measure altitude and external temperature and humidity and stuff. Jeez. So there's a lot that's gone into this, and it's been a good ride. And like I said, we're getting really close to launch. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
It's going to be neat to see as it goes forward. Yeah, I'm definitely all in. It's better than what I'm doing with my GoPros now. So.
Hey, if you want to lend them to us, that's fantastic.
Sweet.